Welcome to Your Redemptive Birth, a birth story podcast where we hear directly from women who have journeyed from medicalized births to natural ones. I'm Sarah, and together we'll hear from women who have reclaimed birth by taking ownership of their choices and trusting their bodies. Their wisdom will inspire and guide you toward the natural, powerful, deeply fulfilling birth you desire. You are on your way to your redemptive birth. The information shared in this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not medical advice. Birth is not a medical event. It is a natural physiological process. Always trust yourself, do your own research, and make the choices that are right for you. This is Your Redemptive Birth. Hey, Hayden. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Okay, so this is great to actually get to talk to you. We know each other, of each other. We're in a milk group together. So we both pick up raw milk in the same little co-op in our town or whatever. But yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do in the world, and your family?
Okay. So I'm 31 years old. Oh, my name's Hayden Smith. I should probably start with that. I am married to a first responder, and I have two kids, two daughters. One's 2 years old, and then the other one I just had 3 months ago to this day. So yeah, 3 months exactly. And then I'm a stay-at-home mom. I used to work in a corporate job. So I worked in the pharmaceutical industry with manufacturing, and that really opened my eyes there. And I worked there for about 7 months after my daughter was born. I had worked there for a couple of years before that, but when she turned 7 months old, I decided it just wasn't for me. The whole pharmaceutical industry plus raising a daughter, it's just a lot. And I just felt like I wasn't there for her, and she was spending more time with the daycare provider than with me, and me and my husband made the decision together, and I quit, and it's been the best decision. I love spending time with her, and now obviously my second daughter, and it's just years you don't get back. So it was the best decision.
Absolutely.
And some hobbies. I like to work out a lot. So we go to the gym every day. It's like my daughter's favorite time too, because she gets to play with the kids at daycare. And then going on walks, spending time outdoors. Can't really do that right now. The weather being like negative, 30?
Yeah, God,
right. And then spending time with my husband when he's off shift. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
Wonderful. Awesome. Well, I guess without further ado, why don't you take us back to your first pregnancy, getting pregnant for the first time, and who you are? I don't know, wherever you want to start with your first pregnancy.
I'll start with, so it was in 2022. I got pregnant like right away, so that wasn't like a struggle for us, fortunately. But there wasn't any like huge issues with my pregnancy. There was like my placenta had 2 lobes on it, which was strange. And of course, the doctors make a big to do about it. The umbilical cord was, why can't I think of the word? A velamentous cord. So it was in the middle of the 2 lobes. So it just wasn't like the ideal position right in the middle of your placenta. So because of that, I had to do a lot of ultrasounds, NSTs towards the end of pregnancy, which I didn't really want to do. I didn't know much about birth at that time either, but I just had this feeling like, is this good for the baby? And it was extra stress on me. But I did it. I made it to 40 weeks, and there was no talk of induction or anything. So really, I had a healthy pregnancy. But once 40 weeks hit, you're on a clock. So the induction came into play. And I think that the medical system definitely, like, they know you're vulnerable at that time. They know you're tired of being pregnant. Your body's tired. Like, you're just ready to meet this baby. And as a first-time mom. So they just knew it. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll schedule it.
Mm-hmm.
So I scheduled it for 40 and 3 days. And so that was on Monday. And I called on Monday and I was like, I don't feel comfortable with this at all. I just had this bad feeling about it. I was like, I feel like it's going to end in a C-section. I just don't think my body's ready. Is there any way I can come in and see the doctor and just like see what his thoughts are? And they're like, no, you can't come in. And I was like, okay, so like I just have to show up to this induction. And now obviously I know I didn't have to show up. They're not going to come to your house and be like, hey, you didn't come to your appointment. So I should have just put my foot down, but first time mom, I was like, oh, it's normal. People always get induced. Like, I'm being crazy for having this feeling. So I went. Oh, and looking back on it, the nurse practitioner, they have to fill out, what is it? What's the score? I know I actually wrote it down. The Bishop score.
Yeah.
So you have to get like above a 6 or 6 or higher to get approved for the induction. And she like added up everything and then changed the numbers. And so I ended up having a 7. But looking back, I'm like, I truly did not, like I was not ready for this induction. And she knew it. And she just kind of like flubbed the numbers to get me scheduled, which is mind-blowing that somebody can live and I don't know, because it wasn't in my best interest, the patient's best interest at that point. So I showed up to the hospital, but when I was driving there, I just remember crying to my husband. And I was like, I just don't have a good feeling about this. I'm scared, obviously, like I had no confidence. And that's not to say that the induction was the only reason why I had a C-section. Mindset plays a part.
We didn't.
I should probably say that. I didn't say that.
I totally forgot. I was going to say it at the beginning. Okay, so your first birth was a cesarean, second birth was a natural hospital birth.
Yes.
Cool. Okay.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in my heart, I truly think it was the induction. And I'll go into the induction and everything that happened. But I mean, mindset is a huge thing too.
Absolutely.
I was terrified going into the hospital. So we get into the hospital. My induction was at 7 p.m. on Monday. They started me on Pitocin, the prostaglandins, like the cervical ripening. Labored all night, and it really goes 0 to 100 on Pitocin. Yeah. Were you induced?
No, not the first time. No? But I've heard tons of women's stories of induction and how it's like the contractions of a Pitocin-induced contraction are completely different from a physiological contraction.
It's now experiencing both. It is like mind-blowingly different. There's no stages of labor.
Yeah.
It's literally just 0 to 100, and good luck. Like the nurses too, they weren't very supportive of like, I know it wasn't a natural birth, but I didn't want an epidural.
Right.
But they kept coming in the room and saying, look, you don't get a medal for not getting an epidural. Like, you don't get a trophy. And that was discouraging too, because I felt like they didn't really want anything to do with me. They weren't supportive. It was very negative. There was one nurse over that night shift that came in and she was like, look, why don't you want an epidural? Like, at least she asked me.
Yeah.
And I'll give her that. And I explained to her, I was like, I want to have the feeling. I want to be able to push my baby out. The whole idea of being like numb scared me. I had previous surgeries and like I have nerve damage. So the whole thing just kind of weirded me out. She was like, okay, well that is a very good explanation. Mm-hmm. I will be there to support you. So she was great. But of course she leaves at 7 a.m.
Right.
after shift.
And I think a lot of first time moms, I know myself included, we go into birth, whatever kind of birth, and we expect our nurse or our midwife or OBGYN, whatever, to be like a support person. And then you're shocked to find out that they're not. And that isn't their role. And I guess we don't know that. We don't know what we don't know, but it would be nice if an OB or a midwife or somebody would have said like, hey, labor is going to be intense, like you're
Right.
going to need some support. And whether that's in the form of a doula or your sister or your husband or whoever, they need to be prepared
Right.
to support you. Yeah. So I
Well,
think
and
that,
so we were debating if we wanted to get a doula at that birth too.
yeah.
And me and my husband are like, well, look, like people give birth all the time. Like you shouldn't need, it's a natural process. We shouldn't need somebody there. But that was like one of my biggest regrets was not having a doula for that birth. Because like you said, I expected the nurses to help me find positions,
Right.
like help coach me and be like, hey, why don't you try this? Why don't we could do this instead to make you comfortable. And it literally was just them coming in and saying, do you need ice chips?
Oh, I know.
I don't know. It just wasn't what I expected.
Right.
So the next morning came around, so 7 a.m.-ish, contraction stopped completely. And I was like, again, looking back, we should have just left the hospital. Like,
Right.
should have been like, look, it didn't work. Let's wait it out a little bit. But first time mom stayed there and ate breakfast. And then they're like, okay, after breakfast, we're going to start it again. So we started it. And the doctor came in around 11. And he was actually like my doctor. And that was the other selling point was, oh, your doctor's going to be there the next day to deliver the baby. Which it doesn't matter who's there to catch the baby. Like, it doesn't matter.
It would be you or me or,
Right.
Or your husband. Like, yeah, not the doctor anyway, but of course,
Right.
I know, first time mom, we don't know.
I put a lot of pressure on it. I was like, this doctor, like, he's known me the whole time, which it really doesn't matter, but whatever. So he was there. He checked me and I was like at a 7 centimeter. And then he accidentally broke my water. Which I truly don't think he accidentally did it. He knew what he was doing, to speed it up a little bit, because, they're on a time clock. After that, contractions were like out of this world, but tons of back labor. I remember I couldn't get comfortable. I tried like the heating pad. My husband did so much counter pressure. There was no relief. The Pitocin contractions, like I had no, like space in between them. It was just like
full.
It's just a constant, just like squeezing and tension, like on my back. That's what I remember. Wow. So I couldn't relax in between contractions. So I told my husband, I was like, why don't we try the nitrous oxide? So I tried that. And that, it just didn't provide me any relief. I think because the contractions weren't spaced out at all, I felt like I couldn't breathe with the mask on. Then that within itself gave me anxiety. And so it just didn't work out for me. I know people say it works and they have great experiences with it. I did not. Then I broke down and got the epidural, which is obviously what I didn't want. But I think mindset again, I went into it thinking like, well, if I feel like I want it, like, then I'm going to get it. And I think you truly need to go in like, I'm not getting this.
Right.
Like, no way I'm not getting this, no matter what happens. So I got it and the epidural was fine, but it's just weird looking back on it. Like you're literally laying there in bed, like nothing's happening, like so comfortable, just waiting.
I know, it's bizarre.
So once that happened, labor slowed a ton. So that was like around, I would say probably like noon, maybe 1. I didn't start pushing until 7 that night. Then I started pushing and the doctor came in and I think he was trying to be encouraging. He was like, you're going to have a baby by the end of today. And I think that really messed with my mind because I kept pushing. I pushed for 5 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, this baby has to come. This baby has to come. It just kind of stressed me out, which I know he didn't mean to do that, but it put me on a time clock in my head. But yeah, it's kind of unheard of for doctors to allow people to push for 5 hours. So I'm glad he let me push for 5 hours, but I think that epidural definitely caused some issues with pushing. They turned it off and they gave me like a little bit of a break too in between there at times, but like you can't move. So like I tried pushing on my hands and knees and that just felt weird. And then I just was on my back the whole time because no one, right. And again, it's not the nurse's responsibility, but I thought that they would be coaching a little bit more. And it was almost like everything I had like looked up about positions and stuff was like completely gone. I didn't remember any of it. So I just laid on my back and pushed, and her head, like they could see her head and everything. So I mean, she did the full descent. But her head didn't cone for whatever reason. So the doctor came in and was like, "Hey, I know you really don't want the vacuum, but it's either a vacuum or a C-section." I was like, "Fine, we'll do a vacuum." So we did the vacuum. I think he tried twice. Nothing happened. And so then they called C-section, and it was pretty quick, the transition. I just remember getting wheeled to the operating room, and my husband, he was like, "All I remember is I walked in and your organs were outside your body." And I was like, "Wonderful." Great. So and the C-section was traumatic. It was awful. I think that if somebody went in with knowing that they're going to have a C-section and it was scheduled and it's just a surgery, it would probably be a little different. But to be in labor for 30 plus hours and then push for 5, then C-section, and I obviously didn't want a C-section, so I wasn't at peace with it. It was draining. Like I just remember I was freezing on the table and my body was just shaking. And then the anesthesiologist was not, he like told me everything that was happening, like a whole play by play, after I had told him like, I'm not going to be okay. Like, I'm going to throw up. Please stop telling me. And he told me more and I just threw up because I was like, I can't, you're telling me they're putting certain organs back in, and that's not. So it was just a bad experience, bad first birth. But I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. That was part of God's plan for me, and I learned from it. I definitely did my research for the next time around and had a fabulous birth. And I got to experience basically every stage of interventions that you could possibly have in the medical system. I mean, from the induction to them breaking my water. They did do a membrane sweep a couple days prior. Awful. Never would do that again. Then the epidural, and then the C-section. So I got to experience everything.
Yeah, you really run the gamut. Wow. What a story. I think, and it's just so common that this story is like, you could copy and paste it onto so many different women, and so many women that happens to them, and then they, accept that as like, oh, this is just the way birth is, and they don't do any further exploration. They don't do any more research, and they like lose the trust in themselves, that self-trust that like, I can do this and I am going to birth my baby next time. And so I'm curious, what was your initiation into motherhood like after that birth experience? Let's start there.
So I feel like it was a lot of sadness, not like postpartum depression. I was fine in that sense, but the initial like first week in the hospital, you're just so fatigued and drained. I didn't want any of that to happen. That was not my goal. I knew in my gut from the beginning, I didn't think I should be going in for an induction. And I forgot to add, my daughter did go to the NICU. So she had fluid in her lungs. So like that whole like C-section was fast. They show you the baby for like 1 second, and then all of a sudden the baby's gone. So it almost felt surreal. Like it felt like I didn't even, like I went through this process, but I didn't get anything really out of it. I didn't feel like a mom. So she was in the NICU for fluid in her lungs, which they say it's from the C-section, that when you birth the baby vaginally, your pelvis kind of like squeezes the baby out, or the fluid out of the lungs, which that could have very well been it. But part of me is like, was it because my baby wasn't fully ready to come out? Because they say that the lungs are the last thing to develop. Had I not been induced and it was 4 days later, would her lungs been completely developed, and then that would have initiated labor? I don't know. No one will know the answer, but in my head, there's like a lot of different like what ifs, because she was fine. She was only in there for maybe a day and a half, and she seemed fine when I visited her. She wasn't hooked up to a ton of things for a long time, even the last day. So only a half a day. And I'm like, I think that if she would have been placed on my chest and we would have had the golden hour and she would have spent 2 days with me, I think that all of that would have resolved. Because that's what I've been hearing or seeing in research, that if you have that golden hour, even if there's like fluid in their lungs or jaundice, like the babies are fine.
Oh yeah.
It's just kind of like precautionary, and they just kind of call NICU, like, first of all, it's a big money maker for them.
Oh, for sure.
And it's all about liability too. Like, so I do think that, her being in the NICU definitely changed the first couple days of like being a mom. Cause I also was trying to breastfeed, which I was, thank God, successful, but a lot of people aren't successful when they have C-sections or the babies in the NICU. So yeah, I think that there was a lot of, like sadness, I guess, when I started being a mom, but then it's fine. And I wouldn't want to say regret, because I've made peace with it, but there was regret for the first, I don't know, probably like 6 months. Like, I made some bad decisions, but I didn't know.
No, you couldn't have known. You don't know what you don't know until you find out you didn't know it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And everybody in my family was like, do it. It's fine. Like, no one thought anything of it. So
I know that is the frustrating part too. It's like, oh, well, you're healthy, your baby's healthy. You know, that's so common these days too. Like, healthy baby, healthy mom. What's wrong?
Well, and that's what a lot of people see, is they're like, oh, well, the C-section saved your baby's life.
Right.
But,
they tell themselves that story.
Right. But I'm like, but I wouldn't have needed that C-section had I not been had the doctors not intervened with the natural birth process that God designed. None of that would have happened, and I wouldn't have had birth trauma. I would have had this joyful birth experience. Like,
exactly.
So you just can't trust. You can't trust other people to make medical decisions for you. Yeah. You gotta make them yourself, because they want whatever is convenient for them.
Whatever's convenient, whatever makes money. Yeah, I think so many of us come to terms with that stark reality after our first birth, and it's such a shame, because if only we could have known beforehand, you know.
I know. I know. And
the
money they made off of my birth, I think the bill was like over $100,000. Not that I paid it.
Right.
The insurance covered it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that is mind blowing how much money they got out of it.
Exactly.
But, and for I didn't put this one in there, my C-section, I woke up and so I met the baby, and then we went to our room, and all my jewelry was gone. Wedding rings, necklaces, earrings, all gone. So that was also a lot of sadness, because I was like, I lost trust in you guys, because you forced me. They didn't force me. I still made the decision, but they led me in the wrong direction. I can't even trust my belongings here, because my wedding ring is gone. I could care less about the earrings and necklaces, but like, your wedding ring? So and that was a whole fight. While we're at the hospital, I'm trying to soak up these newborn like snuggles, and I'm like, they better be covering all this stuff. And one nurse made a comment and was like, well, honey, you'll get a new ring. And I was like, you don't understand. Like, this is my engagement ring and wedding rings. Like, it means a lot to me, and I don't want a new ring. Like, it was a terrible experience.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I put it, now I've moved on. It's okay. I've learned from it. Now I try to teach other people, don't bring your jewelry. You need to be an advocate for yourself. Don't trust people.
Isn't that insane? And it's so frustrating too, because we're socialized to be good girls, we're supposed to, that's why we go into these births thinking we can trust these doctors, we can trust these nurses, we should trust the hospital. It's supposed to be the safe place. And then we
Right.
go and it's not. And I think
No.
that is also just incredibly frustrating.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your first birth. I
You're
think that
welcome.
is going to resonate with so many women. And then just seeing you come across and, find a different way. I'm really excited to hear your next story. So, yeah, I guess clearly this informed your second birth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what kind of hurdles did you have to overcome internally as you're going into your second birth?
I think the biggest thing was to basically forget about the C-section, forget about everything that happened. I did prenatal classes with this wonderful lady, and she was like, tell me about your first birth. And I told her, and she's like, okay, now I want you to forget about it and never think about it again. She was like, obviously you're going to think about it, but do not let any of that come in between this birth. You've never had a C-section before, basically.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to happen again. And I was like, okay, so that was probably the biggest hurdle, was to just kind of erase that. No more what ifs, just had to keep a very positive mindset. And I prayed a lot and asked God for guidance on doctors to choose, because I started completely fresh. I did not go to that same hospital. I felt like if I walked into that hospital again, I would immediately be very defensive, and angry in labor.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want anything interfering with having a VBAC. So I was like, I really need this. So I left that hospital, left the provider, obviously, and just focused on being positive and doing research and having faith in my body and the process and God. And basically, I mean, you can prepare as much as you want, but ultimately it's in His hands. And it's His plan. So that mindset definitely was different this time around.
Wow. Beautiful. Okay. Well, do you want to start? I guess tell us a little bit about this pregnancy. Was it planned? Was it spontaneous? How do you, when you find out you're pregnant for the second time, how does that go?
So, we didn't have problems getting pregnant. I got pregnant the first month again, but I did lose the first baby. So that was January last year, so 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still at the old practice at that point, because I wasn't really pregnant. I mean, I was, but I didn't have any plans yet. So I worked with them a little bit, and then the next month I got pregnant again. So I was fortunate, but every time I've tried to get pregnant, I have succeeded. But obviously, I mean, the miscarriage was really, really hard. Again, that took a lot of faith and prayer and trust. So I feel like the I guess technically it's my third, but the third pregnancy was definitely a lot of faith, because I had two terrible experiences, the miscarriage and the C-section. So I got pregnant again, and then that pregnancy, this one was perfect. No problem. I mean, I bled a lot in the first trimester. So that was scary just because of what had happened the month earlier. But other than that, completely healthy, super easy. Harder with a toddler.
Yeah.
I'll give it that. But I did find a phenomenal doctor. I interviewed a lot of doctors in the suburbs, looked up birthing centers, doctors in Milwaukee, Madison, and then there was another hospital in Wisconsin as well. And I could not figure out who was the best fit for me. And then finally I came across this doctor actually in town, at Mercy, and I went with him, and he was fully supportive of a VBAC. That was the hardest was to find a doctor that was supportive of a VBAC that wasn't going to require an induction. Most of the doctors I interviewed at least were like, oh, we'll let you go to 39 weeks and then we're going to induce you because a smaller baby is a less chance of a C-section. And I'm like, no, I am not.
Logic. It's not right.
I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like, at all. And they kept saying the Arrive trial. And I like read the Arrive trial, and that is not what the Arrive trial is about. They definitely manipulated that. So yeah, it was hard to find a doctor. But he had said he would let me go to 42 weeks so 41 weeks before we talked about induction. The induction would be at 42 weeks, which is average for every single doctor in the area. Like, so I was like, okay, that's fine. For a VBAC, that is unheard. I mean, most doctors don't even give you that. So I was like, great. He supported all of everything I wanted, the delayed cord clamping. I want to take the placenta home. Like, just a ton of different things. No Pitocin to deliver the placenta. Like, he was very, supportive in that. And he was like, oh, I would never give Pitocin. I was like, what?
Good.
Because all the other doctors, they all swear by it for like decreasing hemorrhaging. Like, but he was like, no, I don't find that to be accurate. And I was like, great. Well then, you're a great doctor. I will stay with you. So the pregnancy was not exciting, which is exactly what I wanted. I didn't want anything that could potentially make me high risk, even though I'm technically high risk with a VBAC. And my doctor even agreed. He said to me, he goes, there's more risk for you having a repeat C-section than trying a VBAC birth. And he's like, especially because you want more kids too. He's like, if you only wanted 2, I'd be like, okay, I mean, if you want a C-section, then do it if you want it. But he was like, you want more kids, and C-sections, you do have a higher risk for everything. So he was very supportive. And then so I got to like 40 weeks 2 days, and my labor started. But again, I didn't experience labor before how you're supposed to. So I was like, it's Braxton Hicks. I was like, I think it's Braxton Hicks. It's not that bad. Like, so the contractions woke me up that night. So a Sunday night. But I was like, still, it's not that bad. I mean, maybe it's just going to start and then it'll slow down. It might be another week or so. And I had a doctor's appointment that morning because he did monitor. He made me do NSTs because I have hypothyroidism, which I think is stupid. But I was like, I'm not going to put up a fight because I have put up a fight about everything. I decline growth ultrasounds, because basically they're like, oh, the baby's measuring big, 96th percentile in the head. We want to keep monitoring. So I told the doctor, I was like, look, I'm not going to come in for you to tell me your baby's big every week because that's what it's going to say. And growth ultrasounds aren't accurate. And he was like, no, I completely agree. So if you want to decline growth ultrasounds, it's okay. I completely understand. Cause I kept telling him, I was like, mindset is everything. And the last birth, I know it wasn't because she was too big, but her head went supposedly cone, which again, I still feel like it was the induction and I wasn't ready to give birth. Nothing opened how it was supposed to. But in the back of your head, I'm like, was the baby too big? Even though I know it was, she wasn't. But, so I was like, I don't want anything that this baby's too big. I'm not coming to an appointment for you every week to tell me my baby's huge when it can be off by 2 pounds, bigger or smaller.
Just to also side note, step back to, you said you have hypothyroidism. So are you on like a Synthroid or something for that as well, or no?
Yes. Yeah, I'm on, like Armour and liothyronine, so 2 different medications for it.
Is that something I've heard that hypothyroidism develops for women a lot in pregnancy? Was this something that's like relative to pregnancy for you, or is this like something you've dealt with for a long time?
No. So I developed it later, probably like when I was 20. I'm 31 now. But I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune disease. which they're normally correlated the two. But I mean, it's controlled, so that's why it's not like it's a big deal. But he's like, I'm doing it precautionary. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Right.
I did leave some appointments because I was like, this is taking too long. And I have a toddler that somebody's watching. Like, I can't sit here for 2 hours for you to have stupid elevations and a heart rate for this perfectly fine baby. So there, in my chart, it does say patient left in the middle.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, but I was like, I was trying to be as
a good patient. I know.
yeah, I was trying to be a
compliant.
good patient.
Yeah,
and he let me do a lot of things. So I was like, okay, what I know, whatever. But I was being compliant, and I went to the NSTs. So that morning when I was in labor, I had NSTs, and I was like, okay, I don't want him to know I'm in labor because I didn't. My plan with my birth coach that I had and my doula was to wait as long as possible to get to the hospital so they can't intervene or mess with my labor at all.
Right.
So I went in and he did my NST and I was like, oh, well, I went to the gym that morning too. I noticed that
and you go to the gym. Amazing.
all I did was walk on a treadmill. So I was like, I'm just gonna keep my day normal, not stress out about it. My husband was on shift, so because he's a firefighter, so he's on a 24-hour shift, and I was like, I knew that labor would happen when he's at work. I just knew it. So I noticed on the treadmill that like my gait was changing like during contractions. So I was like, okay, I think it's pretty real. But again, I'm not telling this doctor. So I like sat down in the chair for the NSTs and he did the test and he came in and he's like, yeah, you got contractions, but nothing special. And I was like, oh, so like you don't think it's labor or anything? Like it's not starting? And he was like, it's too hard to tell. It could be like this for a week. You could have a baby tomorrow. It really doesn't mean anything. And I was like, okay, all right. Bye, I'm gonna leave.
Yeah.
And so that appointment was at like 11 in the morning, and I went and picked up my daughter from my sister-in-law's house because she was watching her. And I put her down for a nap. So that was 11, the appointment. 1 o'clock, my contractions were 6 minutes apart. And I was like, okay, I think that the baby will be coming soon. So I texted my husband and I was like, I think, again, naive because I've never experienced labor before, and they didn't seem that bad compared to what I had last time because I had the back labor and they were like 0 to 100. So I was like, I think you could work till like 6 o'clock tonight. And he was like, okay. And then like an hour later, I like texted him. I was like, no, you need to come home. I need you here. And so he came home and he walked in and he was like, Hayden, you are in like farther along labor than what I see with patients that are like, we need to go to the hospital. And I'm like, are you serious? He's like, this is bad. And then I was like, I really don't think it's that bad. Like, I mean, I couldn't talk through them, but I was like, it's not far enough yet. Like, I don't know. I just felt like it wasn't. And he was like, I think you need to call, the doula. So I called my doula. She was like, you sound anxious. I think you should take a shower. And I was like, I really don't think I can take a shower right now. I don't know. My contractions were, like I said, 6 minutes apart still. And so I hung up and my husband was like, no, you need to call the birth coach. Because the birth coach had always told me, I could tell when someone's in labor by their voice on the phone. Like, or not in labor, but if they need to go to the hospital, sorry, I should change that. So I just texted her. I was like, hey, so-and-so, I think I'm in labor. I'm pretty sure I'm in labor, but I just don't know if I should be going to the hospital or not. Like, I just don't know how far along I am since I've never experienced it. And so she's like, can you call me? So I called her, which I totally regret not having her as my doula because she just was phenomenal. She, like, you just have that relationship because I did birth classes with her for months leading up to it. I couldn't have her because she was going to be out of town.
So she's a doula as well around here?
She is a doula as well around here, yeah.
And she teaches birth that you did.
Yeah, and
gotcha.
She teaches like the Bradley method.
Yeah.
But kind of does like her own kind of spin on it. She's had a lot of home births. And her mom had home births. So I just feel like she just is very knowledgeable. So I called her and she was like, I said, I think, I don't even know what I said because I was in like full out labor. But it was a very quick conversation. And I remember her saying, can you put James on the phone? And I was like, okay. So I gave it to her, or to him. And, she was like, you need to bring her to the hospital. It's time. It's time to go to the hospital. He's like, okay. So we packed up our stuff. I did, to cope with the pain at home, I used the, like a TENS unit.
Mhm.
So basically I labored at home all by myself with a toddler napping and used a TENS unit by myself, which is not what we planned. We practiced all this birth prep, like with massage and relaxation and counter pressure, and that just didn't happen, but it just wasn't meant to be. I was super calm. So by the time my sister-in-law came to pick up my daughter, it probably was 3:30. So labor really got intense at like 1-ish. And then it was 3:30. We were able to leave for the hospital. I remember in the car ride, I was like, I'm gonna have this baby in this car. It is a 7-minute car ride, but it felt like forever. It was the longest drive ever. And I was just in all fours in the back, and I was like, I'm gonna have this baby, which my husband has, like, he's a paramedic, so obviously he could handle it if that happened, so it really wasn't that big a deal. So he, like, pulled up to the hospital, and I ended up being on all fours, like, in the parking lot. Because I, like, had contractions. I literally I waited for a bit, to the point where I probably shouldn't have. But so he came in, he came out, got a wheelchair to like wheel me in. Probably looked like a lunatic going into the hospital. It was in the ER, which we didn't need to go to the ER because it was daytime, but I don't know. I was not thinking, and I just was like, I don't know where we go. But the lady came down to get us, and I heard her on the walkie-talkie. She was like, I need a room ready. This one's hot. I was like, oh, thank God it's not too early. Like, that's all I remember thinking that, like, okay, perfect. I waited, so they can't do anything. So we got up to the room. The nurses were phenomenal this time around. The one thing I did have to agree to prior was, just a port in my wrist, an IV port. So nothing hooked up or anything. That was just in case, like, we needed to have a C-section, like, right away. And so I did agree with that. So I was like, my doctor said just a port, just can you put it right here? I don't want it interfering with anything. And so they did that. Nurses basically left me alone. My doula showed up, at like 4:30, and, I had the baby by 6 o'clock. So it was phenomenal. Again, uneventful, but that's exactly what I wanted, was a very uneventful birth. The doctor was not who I would ever want at a birth, but again, it was the birth that I wanted. He wasn't phenomenal, and he was very stressed out and did not like that as a VBAC. But my doctor had said that whatever he signs off on, they have to agree to. So he was lecturing me as I'm pushing why I should not be trying a VBAC. But I was like this. I remember pushing, and I was like not listening to him. And my husband was like, doctor's not concerned. Doctor's not concerned about the size of the baby. And then he comes in, you declined growth ultrasounds from 32 weeks, and the baby. Okay, it's too late now, dude. Like,
you're in labor now. I don't know.
This baby's coming out. I'm pushing this baby out, whether you like it or not. Like,
they hate not being in control so bad.
Yes, and that's what it was. He hated it. He didn't like that I wanted a VBAC. He talked about episiotomy in it. I was like, no.
God, no.
Thank God I was like, I did all this prep, like I did pelvic floor therapy and everything. I was like, no, thank God I didn't, because I didn't even tear. Like, if I would have listened to him, I would have torn all the way, like, and had a terrible recovery. Mm-hmm. So I was glad that I had my doula there cause she answered all those questions for me. She already knew what I wanted, prior. And I felt like I could just like really get in the zone and just relax, and I just ignored the doctor. I mean,
good.
Yeah, it wasn't like a perfect home birth, like with like no interference. Yeah, that was like a little stressful, but I just tuned them out. And I mean, I pushed for maybe I would assume like an hour-ish. I remember the doctor saying something like, "Oh, if this doesn't progress, we're gonna have to have a C-section." I heard it, but I don't remember when that was or why he said it. And then I just remember praying, and I was like, 'cause I was pissed. I was like, I am not having this C-section. So I prayed. I don't even know what I prayed, but I swear, like right after that, the baby's head popped right out, and it was all done. So it's an answer to prayer. But yeah, I mean, baby was perfect, so alert. Like, I just can't believe the difference between the two babies. Like, the first baby was drugged, like probably from an epidural and all the medications they gave me. Like, I don't know, but then the second one came out bright-eyed, eyes huge, like looking at me right away. The nurses, it was almost like the nurses didn't, like they never experienced natural births. So they made comments about how alert she was. They're like, "Oh my goodness, like this baby is like wide awake." Like,
that's another
I don't know.
thing. Sorry to jump in too about
No, you're fine.
when you know, like the common thing that people say about there's no trophy for not getting an epidural. Like, that's the trophy. Like, your baby coming out of you, not drugged and looking right at you and alert, and you being able to move right away. And I mean, there's like countless benefits to not having the epidural. Like, it's not crazy to not want that. And
Right. Well, and I mean, I can't say this for sure, but I mean, what if the epidural did affect my first baby and she wasn't able to push against my uterus as it contracted to get out, to finally push her way out? Like, I was working against the process. I was working against the baby. I was working against my body. Like, none of it worked. Like, so I did the complete opposite the second time around. And it was night and day difference.
And let's back up too. I want to know, like, as you're pushing, like, what position are you in? Where's the doctor?
Oh,
yeah, like.
So, okay.
And maybe, did you feel a difference between like, okay, these are like opening contractions, and then whoa, like suddenly that like bearing down contraction? Did that kind of happen to you?
So, when I went into the hospital, I was an 8. But my body was pushing.
Yeah.
Like, I told them, I was like, I cannot not push right now. And so they did check to see if there was like a lip or anything. And they said, no, it's good to go. And I was like, whatever. But I already was pushing. There's nothing I was going to do to like prevent that. And my body was literally just trying to get rid of this baby. So I did start on all fours. At some point my water exploded. My poor doula went all over her. And then, but what's interesting about that is there was no shift. I thought the contractions would be worse after the water broke, but there wasn't. But I experienced that with the first one. So I was like kind of nervous. I was like, oh my goodness, like, are the contractions gonna be even worse than what they are now? Will I be able to do it without an epidural again? But again, I went in thinking like there's no such thing as an epidural. Like, I'm not doing it. And it didn't. There's no difference.
Probably.
So I tried pushing.
Your
water,
go ahead. Oh, sorry. Your water broke at the right time. You know, it wasn't manually
ruptured
too. So it's like and the water bag helps to dilate the cervix.
It felt like a relief.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It felt like, oh, there's less pressure now. Okay. I can like regroup and focus again. So I pushed on my back. I tried using like the squat bar. And I did that for a little bit. I didn't hate it. I just felt like it wasn't effective. And the heart rate, they made me do the fetal monitoring. The heart rate did change a little bit. So my doula was like, hey, let's just move you. Like, so move me. Obviously heart rate's fine. And I left the squat bar out. I think I had my feet on it. And then I was on my back, which I was mind blown because that was the one thing I was like, I'm not delivering on my back. But it was the only thing that felt good. So I did that, and I did have a mirror, which I thought was really motivating. because I could see her head, where first time around I didn't have the mirror because it kind of like weirded me out. I don't know. I just like overthought it. And I think that had I actually saw my baby's head too, maybe that would have like motivated me to push, even though I thought I was pushing hard. But so I thought that was a big motivator, was being able to see. And then I just ended up delivering her on my back, and then had the worst sacral pain after.
Oh no.
I was not expecting that at all. I was like, I feel like I got hit by a car.
I think that happens no matter what way you birth.
I wasn't sure. I was like, is it because I was on my back and my sacrum was just digging into the bed the whole time?
I don't think so. I also think going back to like birthing on your back, there's such a push right now in the natural birth world that like, oh, don't birth on your back. There's so many other like better positions to birth in. But some women do find birthing on their back to be the most effective, most comforting way to birth. And so like, yeah, I don't know. Just a side note, like,
well,
people
I felt
shouldn't feel
like
shame for birthing on their backs if that's what works for them, you know?
yeah, I think it's just because I hear that, like, because I would hear other women say it, and then I would read things, and everybody'd say that's not the ideal position. But I felt like it was the best position for me at the time to be able to like relax everything and just focus on bearing down on the muscles I needed to use.
Like Bradley method stuff.
Yeah, because when I was in the squat position with the bar, I felt like I almost was like tensing up other muscles at the same time, and I just wasn't focusing on the actual movement that I needed to do. I don't know. It felt right for me. Will I do that the next time? I don't know. I think every baby's gonna be different.
For sure.
But yeah, I remember after that birth, like, I was ready to go home right away, which is completely different than that first birth. Like, I just felt, I was like, I can't leave. I can't do anything. Like, this time around, I was like, oh, we have to stay for 24 hours. I was only here for an hour and a half, and I have to stay for 24.
I know.
But we got home, and it was fine.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. First of all, good for you, you know, doing all of that prep and all of that research and advocating for yourself. That is no small feat. And it's a bummer that we have to feel so prepared and so ready to like be, you know, to go up against the medical system really like before such a sacred, it's supposed to be intimate moment, you know, but you're like kind of still having to defend yourself.
Right.
It's a real bummer. But I love that you had a doula. I love that your husband was prepared to support you the way you needed to be supported. And
yeah,
that's really wonderful. So how was this transition then after a birth like that? How was your, you know, transition postpartum this time?
Well, it was definitely positive. I just remember like the feeling of relief when I felt her like come out, and then them putting her on my chest. And like I just was so proud, happy, like that whole birth high that like it's real. I experienced that this time. I did not experience that the first time. First time, obviously, like I said, it was just sad and angry, I guess. This time around, it just was like pure joy. It's almost like I was like on a cloud. And my husband was so happy. Poor guy had to listen to me for months, just teaching him things like, can you believe this? Like, I just learned this today. Like I would just tell him, and he's just like, I know so much about birth and I should not know this much about birth. But I will say I did help him on a call once. He had like breech twins, and so he had called me after, and he was like, you'll never believe
You'll never guess
what just happened. And then he told me, and he was like, and I was the only one who was super confident in everything that was happening because you have prepped me for this moment. He was like, no, guys, this is normal. This is all normal. It's fine. And everybody else is kind of like stressed out. Like, what do we do? Are the babies okay? Like, cause it's just not a normal thing. One of the babies was like out, like halfway out. So it was a stressful situation, but he handled it well. And I was like, see, I taught you well the last 10 months.
Amazing.
But yeah, so it was joyful. And I mean, redemptive, like your podcast name.
Yes.
I felt powerful. And yeah, just happy.
That's the way it's supposed to feel.
Right.
That's the way I want all women to feel after they give birth, you know? That's the dream. That's what we're working towards.
Oh yeah.
And I think, yeah, like I said before, like this story is, I want it to reach the ears of the women who need to hear it, that, you know, you can have a traumatic first birth and then you can have a different experience the
Right.
next time and have a beautiful birth the next time. And
Well, that's what, like I feel like a lot of people didn't realize how traumatic it was. I mean, I wasn't super vocal, and it's normalized. Like, it is normal. All they really care about is, like you said, the healthy baby. You have a healthy baby and you're fine. But I wasn't fine. I wasn't happy with the process. Birth should be joyful. It shouldn't be scary. I mean, I know there are situations that can happen, but they're few and far between. It shouldn't be every time somebody's pregnant, just fear. It should be positive. It's just a normal bodily function, and it's not like a sickness. I mean, I feel like doctors act like, oh, you're high risk because you're just pregnant, or it's like, no, it's not. It's not this foreign thing that's in my body. Like, it's a baby, and your body was designed. Women's bodies are literally designed for this, and we should be able to get the baby out on our own. We should be able to have this baby outside in the yard if we wanted to. Like, that's how it's designed. Like, you should be able to give birth anywhere. And I know, like, you can feel safer in a hospital, like some people can. But I feel like society has almost changed it, where I didn't feel safe in a hospital. Not at all. I was very on edge and on guard. Like, even the second time around, it was fine because I made peace with it, and I was like, okay, I'm doing this just in case. Like, I can't pretend that a C-section is impossible. I mean, it could still potentially happen. So I did decide to do the hospital birth because of that, because of the what ifs. But I didn't even want to think about it. I'm like, we're just going to do a hospital birth because it's normal. That's what people do. Just hospital birth.
Right. And maybe that was what you needed in order to fully allow your body to fully relax enough to give birth. Like, a lot of women, we are so programmed to know that the hospital is supposed to be the safe space. So we don't actually birth until we feel totally, totally safe. And for most women, that will be the hospital, you know, until they reprogram their subconscious enough to the point where that isn't the safe place anymore. Like, I'm guessing maybe next time you give birth, you're like, that is not the safe place. Like, I don't know.
I know. I'm still like on the fence for the next time. My husband and I have talked about it, because I'm like, do I want to do a birth center? But then part of me is like, why don't I just labor at home as long as possible and just show up to the hospital again if I feel like I need to go to the hospital, instead of driving to a birth center and laboring there? Because I feel like labor went so fast because I was at home. Or we just had a baby at home. Like, I mean, that's another option too, but again, I don't know how I feel in that moment. Like you said, like, what if, I don't know, I get scared or something, like in transition, I'm like, oh, I need to go to the hospital just to feel safe. Maybe I will. I don't know. Probably the last month of this pregnancy, I remember looking at my husband and saying, I think I might just deliver at home. Like, I don't know, but then I don't know, you just still have a little bit of fear because of what happened last time.
Right.
So then I was like, well, what if the baby is a little big, like, or their head doesn't go, which is a very rare condition, by the way. Like, I ended up researching that to no end because I was like, was something wrong with my baby's head? Which, it's so incredibly rare for that to happen. So I truly don't think it was that.
Yeah, and it's hard even to believe those statistics, even how rare it is, like 1 in 2,000 or something that they say. But it's probably way more rare than that because they totally overdiagnose big baby.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And I will say, so first baby was 8 pounds, 11 ounces, 21 inches. Then the second baby was 8 pounds, 3 ounces. So they were like the same size. They both had upper 90 percentile heads too. So, like, it was not because of a big baby. Like, it just wasn't.
No.
And they can say as much as they want, or, oh, your pelvis isn't like designed for, like, no, God didn't design us wrong. I know, yes, there are some people, but not as common as what they do. They overdiagnose that too. Oh, she's too small to have a baby. Where I've seen very tiny people deliver 10-pound babies.
Right.
So, and they're fine.
You're not going to grow a baby that your body can't birth. It's just
right.
not going to happen. Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, awesome. I mean, I've loved listening to your story. Is there anything else?
Sorry, I talked a lot.
Nope, that's the point.
No, nothing. I mean, the only thing is I feel like people just need to be their own advocate. You can't trust the medical system because they're not going to provide you information for informed consent. Not once did somebody say, hey, if you get induced, it could put you at risk for XYZ, or hey, if you get an epidural, this could happen. Not one person educated me on anything that I said yes to. So I do think informed consent is very important, and you, unfortunately, are going to have to be the person
to figure
that out and do the research. Get in, I got in VBAC groups on Facebook. Get in those birth groups. Ask the question, see what other people's experiences are when doctors say XYZ. I just think talking to other people, research, praying, really is going to help everybody experience a natural birth. And I hope everybody gets to experience natural birth, because it's just something that I can't even describe it. It's just amazing. And I laugh because I never ever thought I would be like this. I don't know. I just never would be like, oh, I love birth. But I do love birth, and I listen to podcasts all the time on them. It's just so interesting to me, and I just feel like it's so amazing that women's bodies are able to do this. And it's empowering. It's just nothing feels better. Even though everybody talks about how painful it is, but I don't think it was, it was painful, obviously. It wasn't enjoyable, but there's so much that comes out of it. Empowerment, a baby, love comes out of it. It's just mind blowing. Your body can do this. You're strong enough to go through that pain and be so incredibly happy after. It's just crazy.
It is. Again, that's the trophy. That's why you wanted to have a natural birth. It wasn't just to say, oh, because I had a natural birth. No, you wanted to have that natural birth because you wanted to be fully present, and you wanted to feel, I don't know, I wanted to feel what birth felt like.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And there's something to say, feeling everything definitely just makes you want to, push the baby out, which is so strange. And I don't want to say it was pain. It wasn't, because it was almost like in your head, okay, I'm one step closer to getting this baby out. Every contraction, oh, okay, we're one step closer. There's a reason for these contractions. There's a reason for these feelings, this feeling that you're having. It's not something bad. You should be having this feeling. But yeah, it's crazy to me.
Same. Well, thank you so much, Hayden.
You're
this
welcome.
Has been such a joy talking to you, and your story is going to reach the people it needs to reach. I just know it, and I'm really grateful for your time.
You're welcome. Well, thank you for having me.
Thanks.
I hope that I can help others, because it's not easy finding the support that you need for a natural birth, whether it's a VBAC or just a natural birth in general. So hopefully listeners realize that they're hiring the doctors. The doctors work for them. So if you don't like what the doctor's saying, leave the doctor, find a new one, or don't have a doctor, because you show up to a hospital, they have to help you anyway. They can't decline you. They can't say, oh, sorry, you don't have a doctor. We're not going to deliver this baby.
Exactly. I totally agree. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Your Redemptive Birth. If you enjoyed today's show, please leave a review on your listening platform to help this podcast reach the women it needs to reach. If you have a redemptive birth story you would like to share, please email me at sarah@yourredemptivebirth.com. I would love to hear from you. Let's spread the redemptive birth word together.